My name is Arvind Suthar. I'm Principal Program Manager in the Azure AD team, primarily responsible for our business-to-business strategy. And I'm going to go through some content here which reflects our thinking and our investigation in this space. There won't be any dates or prices, but we are very interested in incorporating customer feedback into our development process, so very eager to work with you guys to make sure that we build the right thing. Some of the things we've heard from customers is that they have these partnerships. These partnerships may be large companies that have fully mature identity systems, or it could be just two people on the side of the road that are trying to do business with them. It's important, I think we've learned in Mark's presentation, he probably referred to some of the hack attacks that have gone on. The business-to-business identity management is a ripe area for attack, whether it be Target or Home Depot. You often see that these identities, these kind of on-the-side identities that are accessing these relatively low-value systems are prime for attackers to come in, compromise, and then break into the rest of the environment. So it's an area that we're particularly interested in securing. And so we provide a way to do that with, or we're looking to provide a way to do that with Azure AD. Some stuff here about how the cloud and mobility and all these things are more and more a part of everyone's workplace. And some stuff around how there's all kinds of different form factors and environments in which your employees will do their jobs. This is, I'm putting this up here just to show the overall Azure AD set of capabilities. So we have, everything in Azure AD is meant to make things go faster, make things easier for your organization. I'm only going to talk about the first pillar here because this is the one that's related to B2B. We want to unify your environment. We want one identity per user, one directory per organization. We don't want shadow accounts. Oh, this guy needs to access this. Let's create an account for him. He needs to access this other thing. Let's create a second or third account for him. Now he's been fired from his original employer. He still sticks around in all these auxiliary systems. We want to get away from that, and that's where B2B comes in and helping to unify your environment on one identity substrate and allowing you to put access controls on top of that and let the partners manage the identities. So I'll skip forward a little bit to the B2B section. So one point that I want to make is Azure AD is a multi-tenant identity platform. Identity platform, development platform. The idea is that today there is an ability for you to write applications that consume your partner's identities. And you do that using the Graph API and the ADAL authentication library. And so today, if you wanted to write an app that 1,000 partners could consume with their own identities, you could do that. And so that exists today. What doesn't exist are all the access controls to say, these partners but not these others, this kind of authentication but not this, I require multi-factor, I require conditional access. All of those things today are left to the application developer to code into their application. What we're looking to do is extract all that authorization logic and access control and put it into the platform as something that an admin can configure. So that's, at a high level, that's what we're doing. Here we kind of go through the different areas of B2B that we're looking at. So when we talk about B2B, it's fundamentally about letting my partners access my resources using their own identities. No shadow accounts, no point-to-point federation with each partner. We really want to make the cloud, or the Azure AD, the federation hub, just like we've done with App Access. We have 2,450 SaaS applications that you don't need to federate with, because we do. You just federate with Azure AD, and now you're able to interact with these thousands and thousands of SaaS applications. We want it to make it the same way for your partner relationships, your business relationships. You federate once with us, and then all of your partners you're able to configure quite easily through cloud-to-cloud relationships. So just going from right to left here, sharing on-premises apps. Today, we have the ability for claims-aware applications to consume identities from Azure AD. So claims-aware applications, whether they're using ADFS or otherwise, should be able to consume Azure AD tokens and trust a single Azure AD tenant. That should work. And because that works, we should be able to also use our external user model to take users from other directories and create representations of them in your directory. That's the kind of the very basic level of B2B collaboration that we're looking at, is the creation and the management of external users. And with claims-aware on-premises applications, they can consume those identities. If you have a Windows integrated auth application, which is much more common, those will require some additional work. There needs to be some kind of on-premises footprint to generate curb tickets and have those curb tickets be actually representing partner identities in the cloud. And so we're investigating how we can do that, how we can take our Azure AD application proxy and make it more functional to be able to support Windows integrated auth applications and their access by external identities. Sharing data, so Rms Data Protection. So we're looking to expand the ability for RMS to encrypt messages to your business partners. Today, we're a bit limited in RMS's ability to send mails and have them understood outside of the organization. So part of what we're doing with these cross-tenant trusts is to make that process very easy. Similarly, Sharepoint external sharing is the notion that I want to take. There is an external sharing feature today, and it's based on this external user model, and you can send invitations to other people to look at documents or site collections in SharePoint Online. Well, the feedback that we've heard, has anybody here heard of the SharePoint Online external sharing feature? A couple people. Do you guys use it?
I think we're limited to live ID right now.
Okay.
Well, I don't think the B2B is enabled on yet, right?
We actually should have it enabled. So one of the things that, SharePoint Online external sharing allows you to share your documents to anyone with a Microsoft account or anyone with an external Azure AD identity. One of the bits of feedback that we've heard is that that is just way too open. We've had pharmaceutical companies come to us and say, it's not okay for anybody in my company to share a document with anybody in the world who has an MSA or Live ID or even any other company. We want more controls there. These domains, not these other domains. These people only. And so that's another area where we're investing in this, this substrate of trust and configuration to allow admins to say, I want to allow sharing to happen only with these entities, only with these individuals, and manage and monitor that over time. Cloud trusts. So sharing cloud apps, we have two ways to do this and two sets of customers that we're investigating how to make happy. We have a set of customers that are on-premises, and they've invested a ton in their on-premises relationships and their ADFS relationships with other companies. And so we're investing in making sure that those trust relationships and the authorization claims that companies generate based on their on-premises business logic, perhaps tied into their SAP systems, can be consumed in the cloud. So you don't need, all your partners don't need to go to the cloud in order to consume SharePoint Online services or for your company to move to the cloud. Now, that's one kind of set of scenarios. For if you are in the cloud, or if your company is in the cloud and your partners are in the cloud, then things get better. There's more capabilities that we have, and we're looking at a set of investments to make sharing possible on a user-to-user basis. I trust this guy and that guy. On a group basis, I'm delegating the ability to designate the trusted membership to a person in the other tenant. So if you have 10 business partners and each of them have 1,000 users, you could deal with 10,000 users, or you could just deal with 10. And then you could leave the responsibility for managing the membership to these trusted people in these other organizations. And then we have the notion of a tenant-wide trust. Oh, go ahead.
In that model, would you get visibility into that membership?
Yeah, that's our vision. The question was, in the group model that I mentioned, would you get visibility into the membership of the group on the other side for compliance reasons? Yeah, so that is the model, and that is kind of a differentiator that we see on this group-based trust in the cloud versus a federation model, which has traditionally had problems with people picking across organizations. But yes, the the idea is that there would be transparency in those group trusts. Would you use this feature if someone said, hey, I want to share stuff with people in a group in your organization, but I can inspect that group at any time?
Yeah, I think we would. I think we would, depending on the situation, delegate that responsibility to an individual or an administrator on that side to understand the business rules in their organization about who's working on the project.
But if you were the person being shared with, if someone was sharing something with you and said, you bring a group, but we got to be able to see that group.
Sure. I mean, if the condition was that they could see the membership, but the people I put in there would have access to their resource, yeah, that would be fine, I think.
Okay, great. Would anybody have a problem with that, with the notion that the groups that you're managing to access someone else's resources be visible to the other side?
I mean, it's no different than having to give them a list of names the way we've done it all along. So, I mean,
no problem? Was there a problem over there?
I want an option that could vary depending on the nature of the content. Yeah, that could vary depending on the content. So I might want to do that for some groups if you really require me to, but I might not for others.
You might decline the invitation. You might say, if you want to see this group, then I'm not interested, possibly.
You might also be leaking information that you don't want to in the case of nested groups.
Sure. You might be inadvertently, so the question, these comments are, I might be inadvertently exposing more people than I had anticipated to this other company.
You're going to come recruit my employee if you know his name.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a manufacturer, and you're submitting invoices to me, and you would prefer to just be able to submit the invoices as a company.
Or you're giving me engineering data. Is that on?
Yeah, it's on.
And we're collaborating on this project, but I don't want you to know the names of these engineers because you're going to come hire them.
Okay.
So they need access, and I've given them access, but you shouldn't get to know who they are.
I see. So inadvertently leaking information, poaching my employees.
But if they leverage that access, we sure better know about it. Once you just, I mean, even if you don't
I'm
want...
not sharing, I don't want to share the names with him.
But if one of the people you put in that group goes and leverages that access, then we will know that they leverage that access. We will get their name if they use it.
All right. So it sounds like, so this is good.
Information disclosure problem. I don't want I'm cooperating him now, but next week I'm competing. And I don't want to expose the names of my talent to this other organization, even though I need to get access to the data. So it's just an information disclosure problem.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, Frank, I'm going to have to decline the invite.
Now, the problem is the other way. Someone might be sharing with you and might say, I'm not going to share with you unless I can see who has access. I'm sharing the nuclear launch
Agreed.
codes
Now we're
with
at
you.
an impasse.
Right.
We got to find another way to collaborate.
Yeah, it sounds like the switch needs to be there on both sides.
Yeah.
People need to be able to say, I'm only going to share like this, and the other guy's side needs to be able to say, I don't accept these terms. Great. So we've heard this kind of thing before. Every time we've raised it, just wanted to kind of explore that a little bit. So that's group trusts. We were also talking about cross-tenant trusts. And where you might think about this is, I have an organization and I want to share my FreeBusy information with another. Actually, FreeBusy, the vision for FreeBusy is that everybody in Office 365 will be able to see each other's presence and FreeBusy information by default. And you'll have the tooling to be able to turn that off, but the idea is you get more value out of Office 365 by being able to see a bare minimum of information about somebody else in order to initiate a collaboration, with the tools to turn off that visibility if you don't want people setting meetings with your employees to arrange interviews or whatever else. So that's cloud trust. So we really expect to enable the hybrid trust, to enable people to bring their trust federation business logic to the cloud without having to rewrite it. But we are building a set of constructs in the cloud, a set of reporting capabilities, a set of auditing capabilities that we believe will be more powerful based on our user level, group level, and tenant level trusts that we're developing in the cloud. And then finally, all of these things generally are received fairly well by customers, saying this is what we're thinking about, But the first thing that comes up is, well, none of my partners are on Azure AD. None of them have a tenant. And if I were to go and tell them to sign up for this, they would look at me funny and not have any idea what I was talking about. And so in order to make this successful, we need a very easy way of onboarding your partners to this shared identity platform. And that's one of the things that we're looking at, this notion of self-service or just-in-time provisioning. I want to collaborate with you and your organization. I send you a link. You click on the link. You're provisioned. You now have an account in the cloud that you can use to authenticate against my services. And I have access controls to be able to add additional conditional access MFA policies on top of the authentication that's managed in your organization. Something else that's come up around onboarding partners is this notion of app subscriptions, this notion that I'm a supply chain leader, and I have a number of different organizations that do business with me. They can't pay for MFA, they can't pay for self-service password reset. I want to be able to provide those services not necessarily for their benefit, but to secure my resources. If they're coming in and accessing my resources, whether or not they have the IT infrastructure to support multi-factor authentication, I want to be able to provision multi-factor authentication for them. And I want to do this not at my employee price, but at a consumption-based, usage-based, lower price. I have 1,000 employees. I may have 100,000 partner users. I don't want to pay 100,000 times what I pay for my 100 times what I pay for my employees. I just want to pay a nominal usage-based fee.
So in the scenario where you have a partner who's not currently in Azure, so you do this individual onesie-twosie thing, and then in the future that partner does move to Azure, are you looking at a step-up scenario where you can convert these individual accounts that weren't associated with a tenancy into one that now is a part of a tenant?
Yeah, absolutely.
Without losing all the configuration you've done in the meantime?
Absolutely. So that is the whole goal of this email-based provisioning, is to enable departmental adoption. Enable one person that wants to use an app to use the app that he wants to use and collaborate. And then at some later point, the IT admin can come in, take over the accounts, and then leaving the configurations intact, or saying, I no longer want to do business with this company, I'm going to sever the relationship like that. So, and in addition to that, we're trying to make these self-service or email verified accounts as secure and as trustworthy as we can. But we believe that they'll never be as trustworthy as a place where there's an IT admin and he's managing people and people are getting fired. And so we're building tools to let people get into the system and providing tools like attestation or multi-factor authentication or other things to help you increase the security of these just-in-time tenants, while also providing a path to having those tenants taken over. And you may have an application and you may say, I don't really want this viral stuff. If you don't have an IT manager, I don't want you accessing my stuff. And so you can kind of set a flag and control that and say, no viral tenants for me, just fully managed tenants. So app attributes. So there's another thing that's come up in the context of these multi-tenant applications, which is I have some information about my application that I want to master. I want to know that this information hasn't been tampered with. I'm storing some licensing information in my partner's tenant, but I don't want my partner to be able to tamper with it. And so that's another access control type of issue that we're looking at in this area. And then finally, app accounts. This is an interesting requirement that we've gotten from healthcare and banking, and I think there might have been another one here, insurance maybe, where there's a notion that there are loose affiliations between users and their employers. So if someone comes in from Citibank, and then they get fired from Citibank, and then they get hired by Remax, I want to be able to track that user. And the fact that they work for these different employers is less important to me than the fact that this person has a business relationship with me. And so we have patterns that we're looking at how to enable those scenarios where you can track users, considering their employment as just one method of authenticating them, one factor to use when making a decision about access to resources, but not the be-all, end-all identifier for a person. So that's the set of things. I think do I have 10 minutes left? I think I have 10 minutes left. We can dig into any area. We can talk about some of this stuff. We can see some more pictures of this type of stuff. Is there anything in here that's of more interest to anyone here? Sure.
So on the share on-premise apps, is that a reverse type situation, or how does that work?
So reverse federation shouldn't require, I'll repeat the question. Is the on-premises thing a reverse proxy type situation, or what is it? For reverse federation, we think that if your app is claims aware, you should be able to consume Azure AD tokens, with just ADFS. If your app is a Windows integrated auth application, there is some stuff that has to happen. We have to install, a connector in your environment, and how exactly that gets configured in your environment is still kind of under discussion. Do we fake out the LDAP bind? Do we create a trust to a non-existent domain that we emulate? There are some other kinds of approaches that we're thinking of how to basically allow the creation of a curb ticket for your Windows integrated auth applications.
Yeah, where would the SIDs come from? Where would the SIDs come from?
So they could be generated. So there's this is exactly what needs to be figured out. Is the idea is that there's some emulator there on-prem that presents an interface as if it's AD, as if it's an AD domain, and then it does the logic internally to generate what's needed to form a curb ticket. But this is one of the areas that needs a little more definition of all the things that we're talking about.
Yeah, Arvind, thanks. This is awesome stuff, and if it works, it's awesome.
Bob's our salesman.
Yeah. So
Bob's going to get deep and technical.
Yeah,
here.
I'll get deep and technical. So, yeah, here's how technical I'm going to get. So we're a consulting organization, and can you tell me where you are in product maturity, getting this out to the field? What is the field going to be talking to their clients about, and when does this go into production?
Yeah, I can't. What I can say is that the viral provisioning of users is in production today with Office 365 EDU, and RMS also has a viral provisioning mechanism where you can send someone an RMS email who doesn't exist in Azure AD, and they can be created. The SharePoint external sharing makes use of our user-level trusts and creates those user-level trusts when you share a document with someone with an MSA or outside of your organization. We're looking to start to light up generic branded scenarios for viral provisioning and trust creation. I can't really talk about dates or pricing, but that's probably the first set of things that we're looking to light up experiences for. Okay. Anything else? Anything else that strikes people as particularly interesting or particularly uninteresting, scary?
I have one question. I just a few minutes here, but I believe that you said that SharePoint is already enabled for this, in a manner of speaking, for being able to. Is the experience that so if I use my wallstreet.com email address as both my live ID as well as an org ID, does SharePoint default to one or the other when I'm getting that invite from a third-party Office 365 SharePoint Online environment?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure I'm not sure which one it defaults to.
Okay.
I can ask the question and get back to you on that.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. I think that might be it, unless there's questions or comments or desire to go deeper on any of this.
With the SharePoint Online, you probably don't know what level. So with the SharePoint Online scenario, what would be the various levels of granularity that would be afforded? So you could say, turn it on for these team sites, but not turn it on for the person's OneDrive, or vice versa, or.
Yeah, so we're looking to create controls in SharePoint Online so that you can declare a blacklist. Actually, this is a great thing to get into. So that you can either declare a blacklist or a whitelist. So a blacklist would be, I'm Pepsi. I don't mind anyone sharing any documents as long as they're not sharing it with Coke. So I have a blacklist. allow sharing with anyone except for these guys.
So that's good. I was thinking more from the content perspective as opposed to the recipient perspective. So this site, not that site, or these sites,
File,
but not a OneDrive or something like that.
So there's the blacklist, whitelist concept. There's also a concept of do not ever share this content with any external identity. That's another thing that's kind of being thought through. And then the granularity of the sharing can happen on a file, directory, or site collection level, and that's where the ACLing happens in SharePoint. We've talked about, as far as the directory goes, we've talked about having the blacklist and the whitelist, and then leaving the rest to SharePoint in order to manage. But let me ask you a question. What kind of access rights or controls would you need? Yeah.
So I think we'd want to be able to designate maybe this site collection or this team site is enabled for sharing with partners, and this other one here is not. So we'd label this one as a highly confidential or more confidential team site, and so it doesn't have the feature. So none of the owners or users of that site could share it. Whereas another site is a product collaboration site, and you are enabled to share it with.
I got you. So these are the people that we can share with, and these sites can share with those people, and these sites can't share with anyone.
Right.
Is there anything in between where, say, these sites can share with these people, these sites can share with these others?
I could imagine that. Yeah, sure.
But it's not top of mind. It's not. You're really thinking, here's my private data I don't want to share, and then here's the stuff that I'm open to have shared.
Because there's a whole chunk of data that just wouldn't be eligible to migrate to SharePoint Online if that control wasn't available for those repositories.
And today, external sharing, I believe, is on the site collection level. So,
I mean, in some respects, you can already do that if you're handling everything at the site collection level. So you can say.
Well, in SharePoint Online, I'm not sure you have that.
Yeah, you have anonymous. Don't share it all, or you have to authenticate with an MSA account or an org ID. So,
Yeah, no, I'm not sure how much flexibility we have in terms of designating
but it would be nice if you
differentiated
could
site
scope
collections.
it to
Yeah.
a specific grouping, so that you're not doing everybody.
so would it be okay with you if you could say this site collection is private, these other site collections can be shared outside the organization?
It's a good step. Yeah, I don't know if that's enough in the end, but it's a very good step. Yeah.
Okay. Let me follow up on these two SharePoint questions and come back to you folks. Yeah.
Looking up there, can we put a combination of external sharing being dependency on RMS data protection as well?
What was the question?
Tying that sharing together with RMS. So you can share it, but it has to go out rights protected.
Yeah, you mean sharing, like, now RMS is integrated with SharePoint today, right? So you can have RMS protected documents in SharePoint. I see, but you're saying integrate that into the sharing experience to say, I'm going to share this, and in the act of sharing, I've RMS protected it to make sure.
Exactly.
That's a great point. That's a great point. It'd be great. I'll talk to
The act of sharing, I'd be prevented from sharing unless I had RMS protected it.
a policy control to say, I only want to share stuff that's RMS protected. You have to RMS protect it in order to share it. That's a great idea.
You also might not want it RMS protected when it's in SharePoint.
You might not want it protected when it's in SharePoint because it's hard to search and index when things are protected. But when it leaves the boundary of SharePoint, you might want to require it.
So I think the way that we're thinking of sharing is that the document is shared in place. So the document is there, and by sharing it, you're letting someone else access that link. But there might be, I mean, the most normal thing would be, I tried to share it. It's not rights managed. I create a copy that is rights managed and share that. I mean, I think that could maybe be the thing, because the whole idea behind the thing is that you're not creating copies. You have one master copy, and then everyone else accesses it.
Or it's anybody who wants, they're going to take a copy, unless there's some protection around that.
If they have access to the SharePoint to the RMS protected copy.
Well, if you're just sending the link and they're going to come to the SharePoint site and it's sitting on the SharePoint site,
and they'll only have access to what you've shared with them. So if you've shared them a link, they'll only be able to see the actual thing that you've shared with them. They won't be able to see everything in the directory.
Right, but they'll be able to save it unless it's protected with RMS or something similar.
Yeah. So that's where the thing is. You just have a policy that you don't allow anything to be shared that's not RMS protected, and it gives you that kill bit kind of capability.
Right.